Hey everybody, I'm Dave,
I'm Tiff.
and we're with Integgrity Ministries. Hey, if you are looking into getting into missions with a big family, or just looking to get into missions in general, you've come to the right place. So on today's video, we kind of just want to talk about the breaking the ice, you might say, on fundraising. It's kind of an awkward topic. Anytime you talk about money, especially in the States, it's kind of taboo. But it's one of the things that, like, if we're trying to go through this chronologically, and it's like the next step in our journey, from the calling to fundraising to mobilization. So to start things off, our fundraising looked different than some people's. Again, we're independent missionaries, so we don't have an organization that we go through, or a sending board or a sending organization. The way that we have it set up is basically we have a non-for-profit, and we work through the non-for-profit. So for us, we had to go out and we had to do all of our fundraising, we had to do all of our advertisement, we had to do all of our reaching out, we had to do everything, kind of the one-man band. So whenever we kind of got into the fundraising part of our story, then one of the things that we did is we reached out to a lot of churches that we knew. By the grace of God, He put us in an amazing church that's very mission-minded, that has a lot of access to missionaries and missionary organizations, and just kind of a great brainstorming group. So we really were surrounded by some great people and set up to do some great things. So when we got into fundraising, one of the things that we started doing was reaching out to previous churches, to friends that we knew at churches, to friends of friends that had churches, and just kind of sent out the shotgun blast. We figured we'd send it out everywhere and let the Lord kind of show us where He was and where He wasn't calling us to go. Whenever we started down this path, it was kind of difficult for us because we didn't know very much about it. We've never done anything like that before. So we went through a budget and we talked about some really good opportunities that we had to look into. The God Ask had a great budget for us to set up. We had some people here in Mexico that we were able to talk with about what pricing was, and rent and groceries and gas. And so we were able to kind of investigate some of that as best we could, and I encourage you to do the same. Get those real world, like right now, numbers, and be able to put together a rough estimate of what that budget's going to be. Whenever it comes to actually going and the fundraising side of it, there's several different routes that people take, and none of them are right, none of them are wrong. I strongly urge you, seek the Lord. He'll give you guidance, and He'll show you when it's the right time to go, just like He did us. Some people have an organization that sends them, and it's fully funded and everything's rock and roll. You jump through the hoops that they have. Sometimes it's language school, culture learning, whatever that may be, Bible school or some sort of seminary type program. And when you complete their requirements, then they send you down the road. Other people have organizations or affiliations that will have you, or a certain amount of bring in. So maybe that's 70%, maybe it's 80%, maybe it's 100%. Just depends on the organization. And then the third group that we've kind of seen is independent missionaries like ourselves. So when you're an independent missionary, you kind of get to set the rules for yourself, which is cool, and it's scary at the same time. For us, we kind of went through and set up a general idea of a budget, and by general idea, we went through everything, like line item by line item. Rent, your food, your gas, your sewer, your water, your utilities, your electricity, your everything. Recreational money, eating out money, savings, insurance, retirement. Like, we went through every little thing and kind of structured it off of what our budget was in the States, and then kind of plugged in the numbers with what was expected whenever we came here to Mexico. So I think that did us good, and I think that did us bad. We had this grand number of what we had to have so we could go and live life and do our thing. And while that is still the number that we're striving for, we got to a certain point that was far less than what we expected, and the Lord told us go. And we prayed about it, and we prayed about it, and we prayed about it, and we were like, God, like, this doesn't make any sense. But sometimes that's where God works. He shows us his faithfulness, he shows us his mercy, and he shows us his provision, oftentimes most clearly when we step back and let go of the reins. When you're sure that it's the Lord calling, and you're sure that it's his timing, wherever the finances are, I'd say go. Because we have seen, in these past 6 or so months that we've been here, the Lord's just provided abundantly. I mean, absolutely abundantly. It just goes to encourage us and prove to us over and over that he's the one with the faithfulness and he's the one with the provision. It's not something that we have to seek out and rely on our own strength for.
Yeah, I would add to that fundraising can be stressful because you're trying to make the money happen. Like, you're trying to make this dream that God's put in your heart a reality, but we have to realize that it's not really up to us. God has connected us with people and churches that we would have never thought possible, and way better than we could have ever planned. Like, God is so much of a better planner than we could ever be.
Amen.
But it's really cool, just the people and the churches that God has brought into our lives. Some from our past that, you know, we thought that, oh, well, like, we're done with that friendship, that time has passed, or you know, yeah, maybe like we're done with that church, like that was just a moment in time in the past, and God brings that back around. He's like, no, I'm not done with that yet. So it's just been really cool to watch how God has placed us here, and just how he has let us meet individuals that we would have never met if we would have never started this journey. So it's a blessing to have all of the people that we have in our lives backing us up, either prayerfully or financially or both. It takes a whole body working together to accomplish what God has for us.
Yeah. So whenever we started transitioning from like the planning phase into execution of the fundraising, like that was a really awkward stage for me, because I've always tried to like be self-sufficient and be the provider and be the one that fixes the things and does the things. What that looked like for us as far as pursuing the ask, it was just such a blessing to see that some of these opportunities I was able to go and preach. Some of these opportunities I was invited just to come out and give a missions presentation. But through it all, the Lord again has shown us his faithfulness and shown us that our provision comes from him, not from us.
One of the books that we read that had a lot of helpful parts in it was the God Ask. And we didn't follow their model completely. I think most of their idea is that you need to be 100% funded before you go. But I see the wisdom in that as well, if that's what God is calling me to do. So that wasn't what God was asking us to do. So whenever we were reading that book, we pulled the great pointers that we could from it and just other random resources that we found, and then just prayed about every step, every meeting, every conversation. We tried to do things prayerfully and just be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and follow his guidance while following the principles that we found in the New Testament. But I think just the huge hump that we had to get over was that we're not going begging for money. We're just asking people to partner with us in what God's doing, what he's called us to, and to not get our feelings hurt if the answer was no or if they couldn't. But also just be really excited to partner with him if that's what God had laid on their heart.
So it kind of changed my mindset from being like this beggar to being the hands and feet to their resource. And that was a really great obstacle for me to overcome, and it was a huge blessing once I overcame it.
So one of the things that we didn't really expect whenever we moved to Mexico was that our budget wasn't really going to change a whole lot. We had expected for prices to be significantly cheaper, just from some of the reading that we had done. Unfortunately, Cancun is one of Mexico's 5 most expensive cities to live. But that doesn't stop us from being here, because this is where God has called us to right now. One thing that we've learned, it's a saying from a really close friend of ours, is just do the next right thing.
Yeah.
If you're not sure where God is calling you, what He's going to ask you to do next, but you maybe feel like there's a change coming soon, pray about it. Those are some of the most intimate times that we've had with God, is whenever we had absolutely no idea what to do, where the money was going to come from, and we're fully relying on Him.
Yeah. So one of the things that was difficult for me when we came here, because I've always been kind of a saver, and there wasn't that paycheck like there used to be. Our income was dropped significantly, and our car was a lot more expensive than we were hoping it would. And I'm like, oh my gosh, our finances. Then 4 days after we got our car, it broke down, and it was broke down for a long time, way longer than it should have been. And I'm sitting here freaking out. And there was a phrase that became part of my prayer life, because I'd pray, God, I don't know how I'm going to afford this. I don't know how I'm going to be able to pay these bills. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do the things that you've called us to do. And I was convicted about that mindset that was focusing on the problem and not focusing on God's provision. And so my prayer became, God, this surprised me, but it didn't surprise you. You knew this was coming, and you know what the outcome is going to be. I know that you've called me to be here. I know that I'm working to complete the work that you've called me to do. Show me the way that you're going to provide. And one of the awesome things about the car repair was the mechanic said, hey man, I'm so sorry it took us so long. There was just some crazy electrical problems that we had to work around. I feel terrible for having it for so long. I'm just going to charge you parts. I'm not going to charge you a dime for labor. Who does that? But right there is a sign of God's provision and proof that He wasn't surprised by this, that He knew what was happening. So let me encourage you guys, do the next right thing. Prayerfully ask God what that step is. Seek Him in all things and trust Him, because there's going to be some stuff that surprises you, but it's not going to be a surprise to Him. Guys, thanks for watching. And if there's anything that you want covered or any more questions that you have, whether it's about the fundraising or finances or how any of that works or how we've worked through some of these problems, just ask us in the comments down below. We'd love to get to that. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.
Bye.